good evening. How we doing? I believe we are live. Let's just switch to that. Yeah, how is everyone? It's Thursday night, 7 p.m. It always seems like as soon as it streams, so I'll get myself in the screen so the top of my head's visible, and then as soon as the stream goes live, it chops off the top of my head. So I don't really know what to do about that. But anyway, welcome to the Jam Station. It's Thursday night, 7 p.m. And as usual, we're doing a live stream guitar lesson. Tonight's a bit different. Let me just make sure I've got the stream up on this computer as well, so I can see if anyone leaves comments and stuff like that. Okay. Let me leave the first comment. Hi. Leave a comment and let me know where you're streaming from. I'll leave a comment with any questions, or let me know where you're streaming from. Boom. So the last 22 Thursdays I've been doing a live stream guitar lesson, teaching the modes, but every single week we're looking at it from a different perspective. Different technical aspects. Generally, we've been looking at the modes in parallel. Obviously, stop me at any point if any of these things I'm saying aren't quite clear, and you can ask a question. Absolutely no problem at all with that. So tonight I thought, we've been staying in A shape this whole time. So if you're familiar with the cage system, you'll know what I'm talking about with A shape. Okay, it's that shape there, with a root on the A string. So we've done 22 consecutive lessons, and the vast majority of them, I think all but one, have been around A shape. So what I'm going to do starting from next week is start this whole series of lessons again, but in C shape. So we're going deep in one position, or we've gone deep in one position. Now we're going to run that same thing in from an adjoining shape of the cage system, so that you'll be able to play 22 weeks from now all of those exercises, okay, all of those technical challenges and studies across a wider area of the neck. Now, this has huge implications for your improvisations and technical capacity generally. So what I wanted to do today, rather than have a sort of heavy guitar lesson, is just skip back over all of those lessons, okay, all 22. We'll go back to the beginning, and rather than going to each one deeply, we'll just skim over it, talk about any talking points or anything of interest that came up, and I'll demonstrate the lesson. All of the tab is included in the description. Okay, so you can go below, click, it will take you to our Patreon, but the tab is free. Okay, obviously if you want to join Patreon, you can do. It's currently $2 a month, which, considering there's about 170 or 180 guitar lessons on there, is criminally low. But go grab the tab, print it off. Now there's 37 pages a tab. So another way of putting that is you could work through all that stuff for a whole year and potentially still not have it all down, depending on what your level is. So a year's worth of technical study is not bad for 0 pence if you want to take advantage of that offer. I'm planning on turning it into a book eventually once we've gone through all 5 systems. There's a huge amount of material there. So I'm going to start with lesson 1. So I've set up the screen tonight slightly different, like this. So you'll have a bit of me, and you'll have the tab on the left-hand side. Okay, and I'll scroll down as and when we move from sheet to sheet. I'll be playing through Logic. Obviously, let me just show you where Patreon is for those of you who are interested. So if I jump to Firefox, there it is, look. That's our Patreon library. And these are all professionally produced guitar lessons. Tons of them. Nearly all of them with tabs. Here, there's 179, look, you see at the bottom of the screen. 179 lessons. So that is a lot of bang for your buck. So that's where you can go and print off that tab. And a lot of them are free at the moment. Where's my tea? So, right, I'm going to go back to the beginning then. Week 1. Week 1 wasn't a specific exercise The main reason being, I wanted to just outline all 7 modes and how I was going to present them upon the following weeks. And also because it was my first time ever doing a live stream, and I didn't want to set anything too challenging in case it all started to go wrong. So I've said this before. Well, I used to say it quite a lot in the early lessons, but I find it far less unsettling playing in front of 1,000 people, in front of a live audience, than I do. Or certainly when I first started. I'm fine with it now, but just sat in front of a camera and not really knowing what you look like to those people. For example, there's been weeks where the mic has been much, much lower in volume than my guitar, and it took an hour for someone to tell me. These things, they can really throw you off. Let's just check that as I'm saying that, just check that my mic level's okay. Yeah, it should be okay. So that said, if something does go wrong with the signal, or if you find that one's louder than the other, do let me know. Happy to hear from you at any point. So, so week 1 was just an outlay of the modes. Let me come back to OBS so I can see you guys. That's it. And I just went through them in A shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly, our starting point is going to be the major scale. So E major. Now I'm sure a lot of you have known that. Okay, A shape is the same if you play 1 octave of A shape. It's exactly the same as 1 octave of E shape. Okay, same frets, same patterns, everything. It's just that you're down here in fret 7 on the A string, while you're up here at fret 12. So most people know that shape. You're just moving it across to there. Okay? So, and then we're learning all of our modes from those notes there. And that's what I mean by learning your modes in parallel. They're all coming from the same note. So, we generally learn these modes in every single exercise. The repetition is deliberate, in an order where we only have to change 1 note as we move from mode to mode. This makes it much easier to memorize which notes and which intervals are in each mode. And far easier than when we learn the modes in the order that they present in the scale, because generally we learn them, or traditionally you learn the first mode is Ionian, the second mode is Dorian, the third mode is Phrygian, etc. But just taking that first transition in itself, Ionian, or the major scale, into Dorian, we're changing the third, we're changing the 7th, okay, and you've got 2 notes to change straight away. Just those 2. But there are other examples like that. Well, when we just got to change 1 note each time, we're kind of reinforcing our intervals within each scale. So let's just go through them like we did week 1, and this will be a really good warm-up and starting point for all of us. So the first mode is going to be Lydian. If you're not familiar with Lydian, it is your major scale, but with a sharpened 4th. So rather than root, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th octave, we're going root, 2nd, 3rd, sharp 4, 5th, 6th, 7th. You can hear the difference, yeah? So that's Lydian. Just warm up with that. Get that under your fingers. You're going to be playing that a lot tonight, trust me. Let's double pick it. This is our first run through, isn't it? And let's triple pick it as well. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Good stuff. So you see that's the top line of the tab. That is Lydian. So then when we move from Lydian to our second mode, Ionian, we are just flattening the 4th. So root, 2nd, 3rd, sharp 4 to root, 2nd, 3rd, perfect 4th. Okay, so let's just do that. Okay, so that's... Oh, let me put a light on because I just realised it's really dark. There we go. Much better. Yeah. Right. Turn like that a little bit. Let's just... Yeah, there we go. Much better. Right, so we had Lydian into Ionian. When we go into our third mode, which is Mixolydian, you can see that at the bottom of the page there, we're going to flatten the 7th. Okay, I've written the intervals underneath the tab. So it'll be root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, flat 7, octave. Let's just run that up and down. Okay. Double pick it if you want. So we didn't use a backing track this first lesson. Right, let me scroll down so that you can go to page 2 and we'll have then covered all of the mode. Look at that. I really enjoy getting used to being able to sort of get my head around OBS. There we go. Looks good. We're into our minor modes, which means we're flattening the third. So there's E. So all of the notes for mixed Lydian we keep, but we're then going to go root, second. Instead of third, we're going root, second, flat, third. Let's just play that. Root, second, flat, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, flat 7, octave. So that's at the top. Stop me at any point if you have any questions, guys, or just let me know where you're watching from. So that's Dorian. Okay, that was our 4th mode. We then switch to Aeolian, which you may know as the natural minor scale. Okay, some of you have done your grades when you were younger. So the natural minor scale is like Dorian, but with a flattened 6th. So rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we want 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6. Okay, that one's generally quite easy. We're not using our middle finger there, it's just... So that's Aeolian. Then we move into our last 2 modes where they're starting to get quite exotic now. Phrygian is probably my favourite mode. We are flattening the second. See, the second note says flat 2 underneath the tab. So root, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Okay, pick through that. Let's double pick it, why not? Flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Cool. And then we were into our final mode, which was Locrian. Okay, so we're sort of the darkest mode now. We flattened everything. We flattened every single note. Root, flat 2, flat 3, 4. Remember we started with a sharp 4 in Lydian. Flat 5 is our new note. And then we retain the flat 6 and flat 7. Right, so that's our warm-up if you like. That was week 1. I introduced all of the modes and explained which intervals changed as we went from mode to mode. So it was a nice easy start for anyone watching the lesson. And it was a nice easy start for me trying to balance my nerves of doing my first ever live stream. So, right, let's move on to week 2. So 7 days later, obviously, by this point, I was a fully... Here we go, week 2. I was, by this point, saw myself as a live stream legend. And I was ready for something a bit more difficult. So we took our modes and we turned them into a picking exercise. Just a steady stream of notes running up and down each of the modes. And I created a backing track to play them to. Okay, so that looks like this. Now, because of the number of notes in the scale, if I count it for you. So I'll start with Lydian. This is the first couple of lines. Lydian. That's not in 4/4 time, is it? If you're counting that with the first note of each mode as being 1, it gives us 1 and 2. So go from Lydian again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and. Okay, so 7/4. So therefore, I created a backing track in 7/4. All of these backing tracks that I'm going to play to you tonight are on our Bandcamp, and they are free. I wanted all of the tab and all of the teaching materials for this whole series to be free, so anyone could have a go at them regardless of their financial situation. I'll show you where they are quickly. Let me go back to Tinternet. Now we want to scroll across to... Hang on, you've got the internet, I've not. There we go. Bandcamp. And there is an album there called Free Learning Resources. So if I click that, and the first one on the list says in 4/4. If you're looking at number 4, parallel modes in E, backing track 7/4. Okay? So that is the one I'll be playing to today, just now with this exercise. I'll be playing over all of them pretty much. Let's go back to OBS. Boom. So let's have a go at that. Oh, you want the tab back up, sorry, don't you? So you literally, this one's nice and slow, and counting in 7/4 doesn't feel that difficult once you've done a couple, because you naturally just playing up and down each scale. There's nothing to catch you out. The challenge is, and this would be your challenge as you come to learn this first exercise, not stopping at the end of each mode. You're going straight through. So let me play it to you first of all. Okay, I'm going to go to Logic, but I'll keep the tab up on screen for you there. And 7/4, where's our 7/4 backing track? It's at the beginning. Okay, I'll play it through, and then you can hear it, and then we can talk about it, ask any questions. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so Lydian into Ionian, flatten the 4th, into Mixolydian, into Dorian, we flatten the 3rd, Aeolian, flatten the 6th, Phrygian, flatten the 2, and then into Locrian, flatten the 5th. There you go. So that was our first exercise, okay? So it wasn't too challenging from a purely technical point of view. Like I say, the challenge will be knowing which interval comes with each new mode and adapting, changing the fingers. Now, obviously, when you learn this, and when I teach my students this, we spend time memorizing each mode individually before we string it together and start to play it to the backing track. So we spend a bit of time learning it and then playing with the metronome and then stringing it all together. I certainly don't recommend, if you're new to looking at exercises like this, which use more than one scale. So you've got a there's a cerebral element to this kind of exercise where you're thinking about which fingers and which intervals to play. You know, you don't want to read it from top to bottom. There'd be minimal use in trying to read an exercise like this top to bottom until you really know those modes. So learn the modes and then we string them together. So typically I would, for example, say, right, let's learn Lydian. So you'd get that down, you'd spend some time with the metronome, and they say, right, and now let's learn Ionian. So you do the same thing. And then you think about where the transition is. So with Lydian, we had the sharp 4, and with Ionian, or the major scale, we had a perfect 4th. So therefore, you know, so you might just go, okay, on the first 4 or 5 notes of Lydian is that, and the first 4 or 5 notes of the major scale is that. So right, let's just move between those two. So okay, now let's try and put the whole thing in. So I'm now going to go up and down all of Lydian, and then up and down all of Ionian. Okay, but I left a little pause in there just so you could take each one in, and then once you think, okay, I've got both of those, I know which note's changing as I move from one mode to the other, it's my 4th, then you can say, right, I'm going to play these now. Straight in. Okay, obviously I sped that whole process up a little bit, but you see what I mean, okay? So, and you'd take that approach to all 7 modes. You'd treat them as pairs. So I'd do the same thing going from Ionian to Mixolydian. I'd do the same approach going from Mixolydian to Dorian. And the result of that is you would learn the whole thing a lot quicker than if you just tried to read it from top to bottom. Even if you read tab really well. Okay? Excuse me. So that was exercise 1. Now, I don't really need to play that again, do I? Because I played you it once. explain the learning method. And we've basically, at this point, week 1, we learned all the modes and what the intervals were. And week 2, we learned to play them up and down, one after the other, as a sort of reasonably simple technical challenge. So from this point, we start to challenge ourselves a little bit more. So let's look at week 3. So week 3, the tab was different. The exercise was more challenging. Let me change the tab on screen. Boom. Right, here we go. Live stream 3. YouTube is not pushing this stream out right now. If you are watching, don't forget to please leave a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Please be clicking like as much as you can, okay? Because clicking like tells YouTube, this is good content, and it will ping it out to more people. I'm used to seeing on my little thing, I've got a thing on screen which tells me what my signal flow is like, and it tells me how many people are watching. And I'm used to seeing, like, by this point, 10 or 11 people watching at the same time. It's currently saying 1. So YouTube is not doing me any favors today. Right, week 3, live stream 3. So by this point, we've got our modes down. We're putting them into an exercise where we're adding the 7th beneath the root note. So if we look, we're going up the mode. I'm starting with Lydian again. I would always be starting with Lydian. And then rather than starting there, we're adding in root 7th. And then you start the next one, which is Ionian. Now, the purpose of adding those 2 extra notes in means we can have a full bar of 4/4. So if I count here, you'll see on the tab that I'm counting 16th notes. I've got 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E into Mixolydian and that's the crucial point there. Just going to point out a few interesting little teaching points. Obviously, if you are going to go and learn this, I would advise you to watch the whole lesson where I spend at least an hour and a half on it. But you will obviously, because we're adding in the 7th at the bottom or the last note of each sequence, the last note of each bar, you need to make sure you're getting the right 7th. So that Lydian and Ionian modes both have a major 7, while from Mixolydian onwards, we have a flat 7 or a minor 7. So you'll notice that the first couple, 7 into 1. Well, when I did Mixolydian, flat 7 there, but I also need to have a flat 7 there. And then I slid into Dorian. Now, all of the rest of them have the flat 7. There, look, fret 10 on the D string, bottom string, which is a D. I think I should just, again, I'll play you the exercise straight through, and then we can talk about any points of interest that come up, or if you have any questions. So this is page 4 of the tab, but you'll see it says live stream 3. Right, I'm going to Logic. I need to change the backing track now because we're in 4/4. Right, so this is quite a bit faster. Okay, I'm counting 16th notes now. You'll see there's a greater technical element. Let's give it a go. 2, 3, 4 E and a. Mixolydian, into Dorian, into Ionian, Phrygian, and into Locrian. I smile there because obviously I've got 22 exercises to play through, some of which I haven't played for a long time. So I'm thinking at some point I am going to start making some mistakes here, but not yet. As he said in Gladiator, not yet. Right, it's a cool exercise that. Obviously, if you're using the metronome, you can slow it down, speed it up. The backing track there is at 73 BPM. I don't think it's 73 BPM on the Bandcamp. If I show you, so the exercise, the The backing track I just played to you there was the top one. Okay, backing track 4/4 time. So that was number 1. Right. Yeah, any questions on there, let me know. But yeah, obviously the 7th is the note we're adding in there. So the 7th is the one you want to make sure that you're always getting correctly. And then we're just reinforcing the fact that we're changing 1 note per mode. Okay, so by this point, if you've done exercises weeks 1 and 2 well, you'll start to already know as we move to Phrygian, oh, we're flattening the 2. As we move to Locrian, oh, we're flattening the 5th. And with practice, your finger will start to anticipate that change. By the time you get to week 22, you're just going to know this stuff in your sleep. I think we could move on to week 4 there, to be honest, because it's just a similar sort of variation anyway. So stop me at any point if you have any questions about those, but that's reasonably self-explanatory. And you'll see underneath the tab, I marked in the interval that changes. So you can see we've got a sharp 4 in Lydian, which is flattened when we move to Ionian. Then in Mixed Lydian, the new note is a flat 7. In Dorian, the new note is a flat 3rd. Right, let's scroll down to week 4. So I need to scroll here. God, I've got so many pages open. It's a shame I can't scroll within OBS, the software what you guys are looking at, but I can't. I have to come out of it, readjust, and then... Right. Good stuff. Week 4. 16th note, A shape, add in the 9th. Now, if you know your intervals, you'll know that the 9th is the 2nd, but an octave higher. Excuse me. So if in week 3 we went down a note beneath the root note, okay, we're now extending in the opposite direction. So I'm going to go, let's just demonstrate on Lydian. I'm going to go root, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, octave, and then the 9th is there. You'll see the highest note on the tab is the B string fret 7. That we're going beyond the octave, okay? The count for that would be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And then you're going from the 1 again, so Ionian would be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, etc. And we're starting on the 1 again. Obviously, we're learning them in the same order. It's the same note that changes each time. So let me run the exercise so you can see it. And then I'll show you where to find the actual lessons within our YouTube channel as well. So I'm going to go to Logic. I'll leave that tab on screen. This is the same backing track. Okay. Exactly the same backing track. 4/4 time, 16th notes. Here we go. Let me get the tab up on screen here as well. Just in case I need to look at it. Because obviously I'm doing these from memory. There will come a point during the night where I'm like, right, I need to read this as I'm playing. Because obviously some of these exercises get quite complicated. Right, add in the 9th. Here we go. I'm not going to look. 2, 3, 4 E and a. Yeah, I played the wrong 4th on the way back down. We won't count that. That was too early to count as a real mistake. 2, 3, 4 E and a. Into Ionian. Mixed Lydian. I'm not going to read the tab on this. I'm not going to read the tab on this. It's too early. Third time lucky. So, now you'll notice, if you're the eagle-eyed amongst you, will have noticed that for most of those modes, I played the 9th there, fret 7 on the B string. But if you look at the last 2 modes, Phrygian and Locrian, both of those modes have a flat 2, which means, given that the 2nd and the 9th are the same thing, I have to also flatten the 9th. So with Phrygian, I went up with the flat 2 there, look, F. And then I can't play that note F sharp, I need to play an F there as well. So root 2nd is the same as octave, sorry, root flat 2 is the same as octave flat 9. So it changed there. And then also for Locrian, although we're flattening the 5th in Locrian, we keep the flat 9. Flat 9 there. Okay. It's good fun that. So obviously at 16th notes, it's a bit more technically challenging. And with my students who have done this, we work with the metronome first at a slower tempo and build our confidence up. The previous lessons, if I now jump to YouTube, just in case any of these were thinking, oh yeah, I would actually quite like to learn that. They're here on the live tab of this. So here's the Jam Station YouTube look. Okay. Flick across to the live tab. And we go down. They're in ascending order, so oldest to newest. So that was the first one. We've just played live stream 4, which is that one. Okay, I'm wearing exactly the same t-shirt there as I am now. Love it. And then they're all marked 5, 6, 7. And then after a while, I started changing the thumbnail a little bit. Yeah, so it's the tutorial number goes in the title. But they're all there, look. So we've just played 4. Let's move on to live stream 5. Okay, unless you've got any questions, ask away. So, live stream 5. So in the live stream 3, we added the 7th beneath the octave, beneath the root, and in live stream 4, we added the 9th, above the octave. So it's natural that in the next exercise, I wanted to combine, we're basically extending the modes in both directions. I wanted to combine both the 7th and the 9th. Now that meant when I started drawing the tab out that I had to change the time signature, and you'll see why if I put the tab up on screen. Let's scroll to live stream 5. Boom, boom, boom. Let me hear you say it. Right, there's live stream 5. Okay, now you'll see the time signature says 6-4. Now like 7-4, it's not that complicated once you've counted it a few times. Okay, we've basically got 6 beats of triplets. So 6-4, you're just counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1. Or in the case of triplets here, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and a. Okay, obviously by extending upwards and downwards, we've just got more notes to fit in. So the count, if I was to demonstrate with Lydian, would be 1 and a 2 and a 3 and up to the 9th, 4 and a 5 and a 6 and on the 7th. And then we're back in on the 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and Now with Mixolydian, remember we have a flattened 7th. So you'll notice when I come back down to the 7th here, I'll be playing the D natural, not the D sharp. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and And then I'm going to slide that finger forward. For the rest of the modes, we'll be starting with an index finger there. Okay? 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and I'm playing my flat 7 there. Aeolian. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and And then for the last two, Phrygian and Locrian, again, remember we had the flat 9. So, or the flat 2 here means we have to play a flat 9 there. So 1 Phrygian, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and in Locrian, everything's been flattened. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and 1 to finish. So 3 notes per click is generally slower than 16th notes, where we were playing 4 notes per click, but we are playing in a different time signature to what you may be used to. You may have not done much in 6/4 before, if any. You may have never played in 6/4, in which case this would be brilliant. You know, not only are we reinforcing the modal patterns and the intervals that we've been learning, but you're also expanding into feeling a new time signature. Let's try it on Logic. Okay, so I'm going to leave that tab on screen. I'm going to go to the 6/4 backing track. Again, that's on the free album, the free Learning Resources album. The counting is going to be 6, and I'll be playing triplets. So, right. I've got the tab there on screen if I need it. Hopefully I won't. Here we go. Oh, I've done that again. I hit the wrong space bar. That's the problem having two computers in front of me. What are we on? Live stream. 8, 7, 6, 5. This space bar. 2, 3, 4, 5, and a 6 and a... Ionian. Mixolydian. Dorian. Phrygian. Actually played the perfect fifth on the way up, corrected it on the way down. We're not going to run that whole thing again just for that last note. Right. So that was live stream 6. Okay. So, let's put the tab back up, sorry. Jump in at any point. No, it's 5, sorry. Jump in at any point if you have any questions. I need to start getting through these because we've got to get to 22. The good news is, right, even if you only did these first 5 lessons, obviously 22 is probably already feeling like, wow, that is a lot of work. But you would improve your picking, your left-hand control, and your fretboard knowledge immeasurably by learning this many modes and learning to play them in this many different ways. I mean, even up to this week, right, which live stream 5, we've played in 7/4, we've played in 6/4, we played in 4/4, we've played 16th notes, we've played 8th notes, and we've played triplets. So it is a really varied way of looking at things. Let me go back to YouTube there, just in case anyone's left a comment. You guys are quiet on the comments tonight. Let me know where you're watching from. And make sure you're still hitting like, okay? It's funny, I've started live streaming on TikTok. Most nights, actually. It's very different to these live streams I do for YouTube. They require quite a lot of work and planning, putting the tab up on Patreon, you know, advertising it on all the social medias, because obviously we've got TikTok and Instagram and everything, blah, blah, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. You know, and it feels like a lot of work. But with the TikTok, and ironically, you put a lot of work in, and like tonight, it says there are currently 3 people watching. So you have to roll with the punches, don't you, with this? You're competing with an algorithm. But with TikTok, I don't put any planning in place. I might put a couple of exercises up in front of me so I've got something to play in at the start of the stream. But immediately, you've got loads of people online. They're all asking questions. They're all making requests for songs. Sometimes people are asking, you know, like, oh, can you help me with my picking? Or, which I love. Do you know what I mean? I love that engagement. But it's absolutely chaos compared to these YouTube live streams. Absolutely chaos. So, but I've been doing it every night because, well, I am actually making a bit of money from it, but it's just like, it's so much fun. And, you know, last night I came off and I had 17 new followers. I was like, okay, cool. Wow. Right, let's move on to live stream 6, because I think that one sort of spoke for itself. So that was 5. Stroll down to 6. 6 was an interesting one. If you look, there's only 5 lines, okay, while we're talking about 7 modes. So for live stream 6, it was almost like we took a week off to explore a different way of looking at things, but also explore a bit of music theory. So this was creating 9th chord arpeggios from each mode, which we would then, from live stream 7 and 8, we'd be combining the modes with these arpeggios. If you're into jazz or blues, you know, it's quite unusual to hear solos that are just made up from licks, for example. And it's also unusual to, or can get quite dull to hear licks that are just made up from arpeggios. So it's being able to freely move between licks and arpeggios, which can give your lines a sort of quite an interesting perspective. So we basically took the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th. Those are your 5 notes from each mode. Okay. And so we did that, tabbed it out. You'll see that some of them some of the modes share the arpeggio. So if I put at the top, look, major ninth arpeggio used with Lydian and Ionian, because they both have major third, perfect fifth, major seventh, major nine. But when we change from Lydian to Ionian, you'll see that we were flattening the fourth, weren't we? And the fourth is not included in the arpeggio. But then when we move to Mixolydian, what note changes? Can you remember? It was the seventh. We flattened the seventh for Mixolydian, so therefore that will affect the arpeggio. So if I just quickly go through these. So root, third, fifth, seventh, ninth. So we've just taken those notes out of the mode. And then when we went to Mixolydian, we flattened the seventh. So the root, the third, and the fifth are the same. That's just a major triad. But then we want a flat seven into our ninth. So you notice for the fingers, these are a different technical challenge, because you're moving across the strings much faster. While with modes, obviously, you're playing generally playing three notes per string. So that was the dominant ninth arpeggio for use with Mixolydian. Then when we move to Dorian and all subsequent modes, we flattened the third. So we want root, flat third, fifth, flat seven, nine. Really good one to get under the fingers, look. So if you throw this into one of your blues licks or try and create a blues lick using this, you'll get some really interesting sounds. That's for use with Dorian and Aeolian, okay? Because when we move between those two scales, we're flattening the sixth, and the arpeggio doesn't contain a sixth. But it does contain a ninth, and when we moved into Phrygian, you'll notice we flattened the second, or flattened the ninth. So we want root, flat third, fifth, flat seven, flat nine. So not the major nine, minor nine. Get that under the fingers. So that's for use over a Phrygian chord or with a Phrygian scale. Okay, these make great things to just sit in front of the telly and loop, double pick them. Okay, so if you're using arpeggios for the first time, they do feel different to scales and pentatonics. Right, and then our final arpeggio was for Locrian, and we created a minor 7, flat 5, flat 9 arpeggio, root, flat 3rd, diminished 5th, or flat 5th, flat 7, flat 9. Okay, that contains within it, if we go from this note, a minor 7 arpeggio, but the root note is that. It's really useful for your ear to sort of let your E string ring out, and then that's the major 7, major 9, the dominant one, minor 7 with a flat 9, and then finally minor 7, flat 5, flat 9. Right, now, even though that's only, effectively, it's only 5 bars of music, isn't it? I still created a little backing track to play along with. So, let's get it. I'll show you where it is on Firefox, on the Bandcamp, sorry. So, there's the jam station. There's our Free Learning Resources album, and this backing track is called Arpeggio Backing Track, so number 5. Okay, go and download that. You'll notice it's shorter than the others. It's only 1 minute 14, so it's not necessarily that useful for improvising over. Well, you could, but you'll be changing chord often and regularly, so it might be quite stressful to improvise over, but purely for making something enjoyable for improvising with. Sorry, back to the preview. So let's do it. I'm going to demonstrate this to the backing track. Okay. This could be one where it goes wrong because we are changing notes and changing chords quite quickly. But hey, it's a good technical challenge. It's good fun. So I'll leave the tab up on screen for you. Let's go to the arpeggio backing track, which is, oh no, wrong, too far. There we go. Right, fingers crossed, okay? Let's see if I can get through this. Managed to hold it together so far pretty well. Here we go. I've got the tab in front of me. Hopefully I won't need it. 2, 3, 4. Dominant. We're going to do that again. Tell you what, I won't talk. You've got the tab in front of you. 2, 3, 4. Perfect, but it's passable. It's about 3 months since I taught that lesson. Right, let's move on to number... What was that? 6. Yeah, let's move on to live stream 7. So back to OBS. My tea's getting cold. So number 7. Let's change the tab. Yeah, so 7 and 8 were really good fun and are really technically challenging because we're combining our modes with those arpeggios that we've just learned. So I'm going to scroll down to live stream 7. There we go. So you'll see in the title, ascending modes, descending arpeggios. So that means, let's take Lydian as our example. Naturally, the modal part, the scale part, will feel easier, and then suddenly it will feel like you're diving down the arpeggio. So the arpeggio part should feel more challenging. So this is probably the first one where you may feel like you actually need to do a little bit of practice and really that transition there, look, okay? And then same arpeggio for Ionian, up the mode, down the arpeggio. And because this is slightly more technically challenging, you'll notice that beat 4 is just a quarter note, a full beat, and that's to allow you to sort of reset for the next one. Okay, it's not very long, but if we try to string this into, well, I could create a backing track in 3/4, but I imagine that would be very difficult. Maybe I should do it as a little bonus lesson. It'd be good for me technically to practice that as well. But so literally, if I was to play those first 2 bars, you'd have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. When we go to mixed Lydian, we're into that dominant arpeggio. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Okay, the flat 7. Then for Dorian and Aeolian, we're mixing the mode with the minor arpeggio, the minor 9th. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Aeolian, same thing. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Phrygian has the one with a flat 9. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. And then Locrian with the flat 9 and the flat 5. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E, 3 E and a 4. Right, how will this go when I play it to the backing track? Okay, we're back in the 4/4 backing track now, look. Okay, so we're spending longer on each chord. These are great to improvise with. Let's give it a go. Okay. So let me go back to YouTube on here, just in case anyone's leaving any comments. Chat disconnected. Why is the chat disconnected? Oh, successfully connected. Can someone just... I hate it when YouTube does that. Can someone just leave a comment and let me know that the chat box is working? Even if you just say hi or whatever, or just let me know where you're watching from. So, because my signal strength on this says great, excellent, 0% dropped frames, and then chat box just drops out. Right, let's do this to the backing track, okay? If you've got any questions about it, drop them in. But, yeah, let's give it a go. So I'm going to leave the tab on screen for you guys. I'm going to go to Logic. And we are back in for 4. And that one there. Yeah. Here we go. Are y'all ready? So what is it? Up the mode, down the arpeggio. Fingers crossed. 2, 3, 4 Phrygian. We're going to just drop in at Phrygian. to do the whole thing again. So you got the idea, okay? So up wasn't too fast. It is the transition between the scale and the arpeggio that will be the most challenging for you there. Right, let's move on to the next one. So, number 8, live stream 8. Obviously, we just flipped it around. So we ascended the arpeggio and descended. We ascended the arpeggio and descended the mode. So let's change the tab for you. I should have just got that on screen before I read it. There we go. Remember, all of these are downloadable for free from our Patreon, and there is a link in the description to this very video, okay? Go and click, send you straight to Patreon, and you can download it. It is a 37-page PDF, like months and months and months of technical work. Right, back to OBS. So I'm just flipping it here, so I'm not going to spend too long on it. If I go Lydian as an example, we're going to go up the mode, up the arpeggio, and then down the mode. Okay, so the timing would be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, and then same with Ionian. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E, flat on the 4th, and a 4. Mix Lydian, change the arpeggio. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Dorian, we're now ascending a minor mode, a minor arpeggio. Actually play that with a different finger in. I'm going to play it there. Aeolian, same arpeggio. We want a flat 9 arpeggio for Phrygian. Okay, so flat 9 there. And finally for Locrian, we're going to flatten the 5th as well. Right, I'm going to go straight into the backing track. Okay. I'll leave the tab on screen for you. And then we're going to start getting some of the harder stuff. So, fingers crossed. Up the arpeggio. 2, 3, 4 Rihanna. He's got it going on. He has got it going on. Right. So we skipped through those two. Let's move on to live stream 9. Now, live stream 9 may be Happy Birthday. Let's have a look. Oh, no, it's thirds. Oh, cool. Yeah. This is something I have taught a lot over the years. So, yeah, diatonic thirds. Here we go. In all of scales. So when I was creating these exercises, this was an obvious one to put in. It's such a useful way of exploring any kind of scale. Okay, because you're jumping away from your typical up and down. Now, typically, you're not going to play loads and loads of phrases, long phrases that use thirds like that. But it's actually very useful to be able to play an entire scale or mode in thirds, so that when you're improvising, it doesn't matter where you are within the scale. If you decide you want to play some thirds, you can let rip with a few, okay? So it's really cool to play the whole scale with thirds. Now, just to explain what's going on there for people who have never played their scales like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. Good. These are called diatonic thirds. Yeah, I'll put that in the title, ascending diatonic thirds. So that means we're not just playing the third of each note, because if you were playing the third of each note, the parallel thirds, you'd play your note, then the third, then the next note, then the third, then the next note, then the third. But at some point, that started to sound wrong. Do you see how it started to sound odd? Diatonic thirds means that you're playing thirds, but that you're staying within the scale. So some of your thirds will be major, some will be but some will be minor. But what that means is minor, major, minor, minor. Okay? That means you're staying within the scale, so everything sounds in key. And if you were improvising with it, you would sound in tune. So there'd be very limited value in learning a scale and playing just the major third of each note or the minor third of each note, because you'd constantly be going in and out of tune. So what I suggest with, if you've not played a scale in thirds before, what I suggest you do is break it down. Obviously in the lesson I'll go into this in a bit more detail, but I'll break it down string by string. So if we do Lydian as our first example, there's the root and the third, and then there's the second and the third. Okay, so you're going root, third, second, sharp, 4. And I would put that on a bit of a loop. Okay, so if you're used to your pentatonic blues solos, this would feel very odd, but it's actually a great exercise because you're using all 4 fingers. That was outside picking, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You could also do it inside picking just for something different. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, so you're challenging yourself technically as well as the way you're looking at the fretboard as well. Then I'd go from, look at the D and G strings. So minor third, major third. Loop it, okay? This is how I do this with all of my students. And if you were to have lessons with me, this is what we would do. We learn in small little bite-sized cells that are easy for the brain to memorize and easy for the fingers to loop and find. It's a very efficient way of learning. It is a much more efficient way of learning than just reading a whole scale or a whole exercise from top to bottom. Trust me. So that's the next cell. And then before we look at the next cell, I would join those 2 cells together. So the first cell would be, and the second cell. Okay, I would loop that. Even if you leave a little gap at first, just to assimilate the notes into your brain. And then once you've got those 2 cells, and you can play them one after the other, then you join them up into one bigger cell. Okay? And then obviously we're getting towards the end of the exercise anyway. We're going to go from 6 on the G string. And that is the last cell there. Minor, minor, finish on the root note. Finish on the octave. Loop it. Okay? If you wanted to make that even more challenging without... So it would feel like you're playing a funny time signature then. 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2. How many notes is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. University. 1. University, 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 university. You get the idea. And then the natural thing then, add that third cell to our first largest cell. That's cell 1, cell 2, cell 3. Let's build a mega cell. Now by going deep like that, and for that to sort of not feel too weird, and having the fingers absorb those patterns, it's then much easier to then go, right, let's look at Ionian, because remember, in this system of learning the modes, we're only changing one interval per mode. So when we look at Ionian, it's only the 4th. Where we encounter the 4th is where it's different. So the first cell becomes that. So if you were to loop that, you'd actually need to roll it. Roll the middle finger there, look, because you're finishing on 7 on the D string, going back to 7 on the A string. We talk about rolls a lot. If you've done a few of these with me, you will find that you'll be sick of me talking about fretboard rolls, but what an important technique it is. Okay, so that would be cell 1. That would be cell 2. I'm not going to do them all. I'm not going to teach them all, because that's what the idea of this is, to show you what the exercise is and then point you to where the actual full hour, 2 hour lesson is, okay? Right, so that's the theory behind it. Let's play this to the backing track. We're still at 1 bar per chord and 1 bar per scale. So I'm going to leave that tab up on screen. I'm going to go to Logic. Let's see how this goes. So ascending thirds, this is live stream 9. It's the same backing track as the previous one. Fingers crossed, wish me luck. 2, 3, 4. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. Again, you'll notice because we went as far as the 9th there. When for Phrygian and Locrian, I moved on to flat 9. Okay, so you'll notice that in Phrygian and Locrian because they both have a flat 2 here. They have a flat 9 there. Right, cool. You guys are quiet on the chat tonight. Let's have a bit of a let's have a comment. Let's have a bit of chit chat. Where are you watching from? Let me give you some encouragement. Look, I'll tell you what. We'll take a break for a second. If I open up, I'm doing it on the wrong computer. If I open up a new tab on Firefox, I'll show you this in a second. And I'm going to go to map. World map. Okay, now what I've been doing with all these live streams on both TikTok and YouTube is I've got a world map, and every time I get a comment from a new country, I colour in that country. I say colouring, I'm not sitting there with wax crayons. Right, so there's the... Let me just drop this in, and it should just blow it up to the same. There we go. So that's what it looked like last night after my TikTok stream. Let me give you guys that as well. So all the blue countries are where people have commented. With the US, I separated it into states, just like with the UK, I separated it into the constituent countries. I should do the same with Canada, really, because I feel like I've just covered a huge amount of area from one comment from Newfoundland. So, well, really, I'd quite like to get some comments from Toronto, and I've got friends on the West Coast as well as the East Coast of Canada. So, but yeah, why is Morocco coloured in? I'm sorry, it's Algeria. I have not had a comment from Algeria. I must have done that accidentally. But I did Egypt this week, and the week before we had Nigeria, which was brilliant. So if you are watching from a country that is not blue, let me know. Drop a comment in. Ask me a question. Say hello. Whatever you want. Okay? Tell me what guitar you play. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Absolutely would. Or if you're a state where I've not filled in the States, look, a lot going in. Nothing up north, really. What's going on in Montana? What's going on in Dakota? Okay, I want to hear from you guys. Or if you're a guitarist and you've got a friend who lives in one of these countries, yeah, I want to fill in some blue tonight, okay? Because I guarantee that if I go onto TikTok and do a 30-minute stream afterwards, people will be flying in with their comments to tell me where they're from. So, right. So that's the world map. Let's go back to the tab. That was a nice little break. Let's move on to, that was ascending thirds. Naturally, we want to do descending thirds. So let's change the tab. This was on a live stream 10. Okay, looking good. So it's the same thing, but we were starting from the octave, okay, and then just coming down a third within the scale. Again, diatonic thirds, okay. So this is Lydian. So whereas before with the ascending, we went up up to the ninth to finish on the octave. We're going to do the same thing. We're starting from the root, down to the seventh to go up and finish on the root note. Okay, so it's the same thing, and that gives us our full loop. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and this one's going 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and yeah, cool. I don't really need to teach it because it's essentially you're going to use the exact same method as you did. So again, go with cells, right? So that would be your first cell. Loop it. It's exactly the same way that I taught live stream 9. Break it down into small bite-sized cells. 1 E and 2 E, 1 E and 2 E, 1 E and 2 E, okay? And then you got the next string. That's cell 2. So when you watch, if you want to watch live stream 10, the full lesson, okay, I would be working in this manner. And then join those two together. So this is all Lydian. Oh, hello. And then cell 3 would be just put all 3 cells together. They're all little bite-sized parts that are easy to memorize. Okay, that is a great way of learning it. Let's do it to the backing track, shall we? I'm wondering if next week I may have to split this across 2 lessons, just because we've already done an hour. Well, let's see. I'm going to keep going. I'm all right. So let's do that to the backing track. I'll leave the tab on screen. I'll go Logic. Same backing track, okay? We've had the same backing track for a few different lessons now, but it's still 4/4, okay? 1 chord per bar. Let's give this a go. Live stream 10, descending thirds. Right, I shouldn't need to look at the tab for this one. 2, 3, 4, Rihanna. He says, here we go. Ignore that. Right, a couple of points there. The first one, I should have mentioned this. After you come out of Mixolydian, you've stretched down there for the flat 7. You'll see that in the tab. It goes down to fret 5, I believe. Yep, 5, 7. Now then, the big jump. I remember having this when I taught it. You have to jump that finger to fret 9 to start Dorian, and you're straight away going to the little finger on 11. So you've literally been down here at fret 5 and suddenly you're at 11. That's the biggest technical challenge. Okay. Gosh, messed that one up. I don't know, the one I messed up was Phrygian, wasn't it? So that was because it had, this was all good. Flat 2. I played it at the end, but the first time I played it, a major 2, okay? But there you go. Lock room went fine. Cool. It's a great exercise, okay? Now, you will see descending and ascending thirds, and it's a form of sequencing in lots of guitar solos. Once you've heard it, okay, you'll hear it in lots of solos. Okay? You won't necessarily do a full bar of it. You might just... See what I mean? There's a little phrase there that started with a little bit of thirds, or you might ascend with some thirds, okay? So it's definitely a very cool thing to get under the fingers. Let's move on to number 11. We're going to come up to happy birthday at some point here. So let's have a look. Let's scroll down. Obviously, if you get any questions at any point, guys, let me know. Yeah, so happy birthday. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate this now for two reasons. One, there wasn't a backing track for it. And also this one was to sort of break out of every lesson. These previous 10 lessons were all A shape of the cage system. I just wanted to break out of that something different and also teach a famous tune that everyone knows and apply the melody to the mode. So what we did, I still recommend going to do this lesson. It's full of interesting music theory. We talked about the chords within a key, but you'll notice if I put this drone on in Logic, so let's solo this keyboard. What I did, I'll solo my guitar. If I take Lydian, what I did was basically set a drone going and then so we've not heard the sharp 4 yet, so this just sounds like the major scale at the moment. Still does. And then we hear Lydian here. Right, I'm not going to play only the major scale because you know it, but let's jump to something a bit more interesting. Let's look at Phrygian. Let me scroll so you can see Phrygian. So this is on the next page. Let's just check you've got it on screen. Yeah, so this is the second from the bottom. You see we've now got a flat 2, a flat 3, a flat 6, and a flat 7. Woo! Now listen to Happy Birthday played with Phrygian. Okay, still starting from an E. Sounds magnificent, doesn't it? You get the idea. So I'm not going to spend ages going through all of them. I definitely recommend you watching the video, watching the live stream lesson. But that's essentially what I did for all 7 modes. Okay, so I taught all of them, discussed any sort of harmony involved. So I think what I'm going to do is move straight on to the next technical exercise. And if anyone's got any questions about that, then of course ask them. But Aman, how you doing, mate? Sorry, I've only just seen your comment because I had something else up on screen. But nice to hear from you, dude. How you getting on, all right? Sorry, I should be looking here. You well? How close are you to everything that went on last night around Kathmandu? Like, are you okay? Are your family okay? So I'm pleased you jumped in. I did actually think about you when I heard the news. So let's move on to the next exercise. Okay, which will be, if that was 11, we want live stream 12. Live stream 12 was sequencing. This is something I teach quite often. Okay, not just with the modes, but sequencing is a great way. Obviously, as a guitar teacher, and having done this for 25 years, hello, Aaron. Quick question: have you thought of making a video breaking down any hit song where a specific mode is applied? That's a really, really good suggestion. I haven't. I should. I guess that's what Happy Birthday was for, was to sort of take a melody and run it through lots of different modes, because it really gives a taste of the atmosphere of each particular mode. But I could do that. Because, so sometimes within the lessons, I do point out, so for Mixolydian, for example, Mixolydian is a scale or a mode that's often used in blues and jazz and things like that over static dominant chords. But it does crop up from time to time. Norwegian Wood by the Beatles is a good example of a song that uses Mixolydian. So, yeah, The Flood in the Mountains. Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were. I know you did when the first week we had the... when we first communicated, you did tell me where you're from, but thankfully, I do get quite a few people who jump in from India, which is really nice. So, especially with my love for cricket, it's always nice to sort of ask that question. But, okay, well, I'm pleased you're okay. But no, why not? I could do a breakdown on a particular mode, and because there are tracks that use Phrygian and Dorian, and yeah, why not? Good suggestion. I'll write that down. Right, let's move on to this one. So you'll notice now this is 2 bars per mode. So this one's triplets. So I had to produce a new backing track which changed chord every 2 bars rather than every bar. But just to explain what sequencing is, sequence when you move up the scale a certain number of notes, it's usually 3 or 4, and then you go back to the next note. So this is Lydian. So I'm going up in 3s, okay? And then again we're going up to the 7th there, so look. So the reason I'm playing that in groups of 3 like that is so that your brain can sort of assimilate each group of 3. Now, if you're new to sequencing, I would even do a similar sort of thing as I was doing with the previous exercise and join them together as cells. So cell 1 being that, and cell 2 being that, and then... Do you see what I mean? You want these bite-sized notes and bite-sized phrases that you can repeat again and again and again. So, for example, here, you might even 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1. That's counting 16th notes and then triplets. So that's cells 1 and 2, or beats 1 and 2. Probably a few videos that may increase the viewership. I mean, no, it's a good suggestion because people like series. This is why I've stuck to the modes. Obviously, it's very tempting, as most musicians like jumping from thing to thing and like, oh, let's do a bit of the case system. Oh, let's do some modes. Let's do some pentatonics. Let's do some arpeggio substitution. But actually, the algorithm likes consistency. So having a lesson on the modes every Thursday is a chance for me to build up an audience of people who all want the same thing. No, I'm happy to check in. God, absolutely. I honestly did think of you straight away because I wasn't sure where you were. I am thinking of doing a 3rd live stream every week on a different subject, but it is cool to always not just do technical exercises each week as well. Break it up with some sort of music theory and relating it to a song that people understand. I think that's a really, really sensible suggestion. So I'll have a think about that. Have you got any songs that you know that are used specific modes that you have learned, or yeah, let's get a swig of water while we're having a quick stop. Right, so that's how I suggest you break it down. I did 2 cells there. If we were to look at Ionian, obviously we flattened the 4th, so the 2nd cell, we've now got a perfect 4th. I have to do a roll there, look. Roll. You can also think of it in terms of, obviously we're all often referring these modes back to the intervals. You can think of it in terms of root, 2nd, 3rd, then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, then 3rd, 4th, 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 6th, 7th, octave, 7th, octave, 9th, back to the octave. That's a good way of reaffirming which interval is which. Right. I'm just going to quickly, if I scroll down to... I'm going to scroll down to the 2nd page and I'll leave that up while I'm running it through to the backing track because there are 4. I've managed to squeeze 4 modes into the 2nd page. Look. What's going on with Dorian? Oh, I noticed when I have run back a few of these over the last few days just to check I can still play them. If ever I was going to make this mistake, it's often on Dorian. So it's actually quite sensible for me to check through. Nothing weird going on. Okay, if I can play Dorian, there's a good chance I can play all of them. Right, let's do it to the backing track, shall we? Okay, so you can hear it in action. So the first three will be off screen, and then when I get to Dorian, you'll be following it down. I'm going to shoot to Logic. Right, I need to change backing track now because it's going to be a backing track with 2 bars per chord. So this is a different backing track on Bandcamp as well. Okay, you'll see it's marked 2 bars per chord. Loving what you're doing though. I'm not yet there with the modes. I know the pentatonic. Oh, the 5 shapes. Mate, that's a great place to start. And you can actually see, if you ever want to do any, a couple of private lessons, I can show you the pentatonics fit within the modes. So if you do have a good pentatonic framework, and a few triads as well. Okay, yeah, because I'm coming up to triads in a minute. You're trying to learn how to solo, and as of now, I'm consistent enough. Yeah, consistency is everything, indeed, isn't it? But just quickly, right, as you're on that, if I was to take, let's just do E minor pentatonic there, A shape, so you know that one there, because that's where we're playing these. Well, if I wanted to play the natural minor, so let's just do Dorian first of all. If I want to play Dorian, I'm adding to that, which is root, flat third, fourth, fifth, flat 7. I'm going to add a second. And I'm going to add a 6th. And I've got Dorian. I've just added 2 notes to my pentatonic framework. Okay? I could also play that 6th there. Now, if I wanted to do the natural minor scale or Aeolian mode, I'm going to flatten that 6th and play root, 2nd, flat 3rd, 4th, 5th, flat 6. I'm still adding just 2 notes to my minor pentatonic. So I'm thinking, well, I'm not thinking of that as a framework, but a lot of people do. And a lot of people do when they first start learning them. It's great to think of it as a pentatonic framework and notes you'll add into that. If I wanted to do Phrygian, I'm taking the same framework, but I'm adding a flat 2 and a flat 6. Okay, so you can see it all fits around the pentatonic scale that you know. And then if I wanted to do, the last one is Locrian, I do have to change the 5th. Okay, but the rest of it, flat 2, flat 3, flat 5, flat 6. Okay, so you have had to change one of your notes from the minor pentatonic scale, but you can get an awful lot of information there. Wokanu, is that how I'm pronouncing it? Cheers, dude. I really appreciate that. Nice bit of feedback's nice. To be honest, tonight I've really enjoyed running this session, but the chat's been so quiet. There are times when you sit there thinking like, is something gone wrong technically? Do you know what I mean? Like, am I talking to the camera and it looks like I can see everything fine on screen, but in actual fact, my voice is silent to you guys or whatever? Has something gone wrong? Because some weeks I get comments all night, and then tonight they didn't come in until our man got in. So, but thank you. I appreciate that. So are you saying awesome because of the sort of treating them, learning the modes around a pentatonic framework? Is that what sort of, or were you talking about my t-shirt, for example? But, right, so let's try this to the backing track. Okay. So triplet sequencing, 2 bars per chord. Where's Logic? There's Logic. So when I say Logic, by the way, I'm looking at this look. So I've got all my separate backing tracks up on screen. And I'm just switching between the relevant backing track. So when I say, let's get Logic, this is what I'm looking at. So I'm currently, the 2 bars per chord is the one on the far right. And all the other, I'm just switching to the backing track depending upon which lesson I'm teaching. So right, let's go back to the tab for you guys. Right, here we go. Ready? Wish me luck. What are we doing? Yeah, ascending triplets. 2, 3, 4 rounder. 2, 3, 4 rounder. Into Ionian. Now Dorian. We're going to Locrian. I'm not going to start again. I did that because I thought, I've finished, so I stopped concentrating. Like an idiot. Right. So, we're getting through them. It's 8:30. I wonder if I can get all the way through, whether I have to do a part 2 next week where I do all the later ones. Let's keep going. Let's soldier on. Okay. I'll tell you what will cause me to stop. Being too hungry. And then I will need to stop. Right. So, let's move on to live stream 13. So, obviously, if you've been watching this from the start, with each ascending exercise, I followed it with the descending, naturally, because you want to be able to play these sorts of exercises in both directions. So I don't need to explain sequencing again. It's the same principle. You're going down in groups of 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and going down to the 7th to finish on the octave. So that was played with a little gap after each 3. You want to eventually string them together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Change. This is Mixolydian. And then this, for example, Locrian. You get the idea. Let's run it. Okay, because it's the same backing track, it's the same exercise, just in reverse. But with each of these, remember, there is a full 2-hour lesson available as a live stream lesson. You can go back, watch it from the beginning. The tab is downloadable as a full 37-page PDF. You just find the page of the exercise you're looking for, find the live stream, click, and you're there. Free 2-hour guitar lesson. Right, descending triads. I don't need the tab in front of me. Let's just get on with it. 2, 3 and 4 and Ionian. Mixolydian. 7. Nice. Right. Let me go back to OBS. Onwards and upwards. So we're on 13 out of 22. Maybe we'll get to the end. So keep the comments coming in, guys. Let me show you the world map again. Okay. The blue is where people have commented from. Okay. Africa, you are letting me down, guys. And then the northern states of the US. And Australia. I've got so many friends and family in US, all of in Australia. My niece and nephew are in Australia. Okay, maybe I need to get my brother to get his children up in the middle of the night to comment. So, yeah, if you're from one of those countries, the grey ones, leave me a comment. If you're from one of the blue ones, still leave me a comment, okay? It helps. It helps to push the stream out to more people. So, right, back to the tab. Let's move on. That was 13. They're great ways of looking at new fingerings and new patterns into your playing. Right. 14. So we're adding into this. Gets a little bit more technically challenging now, because I took the same exercise and essentially squeezed it into one bar. And to do that, rather than have 3 notes per click, 3 notes per beat, we had 4, so 16th notes. Okay, but if you look at the sequencing, it's still, the sequences are still 3, so we're still playing 3, 3, but the count is 16th, so 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a etc. This is called rhythmic displacement, because whereas before we would have 3-note sequence to a count of 3 triplets. Obviously, you're moving with the beat. Here we've got a 3-note sequence to a 4-note count, 3 against 4. So the beat becomes, or the phrase becomes rhythmically displaced. And also you'll notice we are moving straight from exercise to exercise, straight from mode to mode. There's no pause, okay? So this one was the first where it got really like, this is a technical challenge now, okay? So let's raise the bar a little bit. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2. And we are able to do it because you're going to finish up there with one finger and jump down to the root note with another finger. Okay, so that may be finishing on the 3rd finger, jumping back to the 1st finger for, say, Dorian or Aeolian, etc. The first couple, we're finishing on the little finger, coming back to the middle finger to start the mode again. So let's just do a couple, because you'll know actually the ending is slightly different. We've got 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So you just run up at the end. You'll notice beat 4 is just all ascending. Okay, so we're sort of breaking away from it a little bit. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Same on Ionian, look. 1 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, all the way up. So be prepared for that last beat to be slightly different. Let's do mixed Lydian. Okay, Dorian. Which fingering did I use for Dorian there? Did I put an alternative fingering for Dorian on the next page? Because I think for this one, yeah, Dorian alternative fingering. Because I felt like the fingering we'd been using up to this point wasn't that easy, so yeah, I definitely use the alternative fingering. Okay, that one there. So I'll do this one to the backing track now. Okay, so we have changed backing tracks because we're back to 1 chord per bar. Okay, so let's take that. We're going to go back to this one. Right, let's go for it. Ask me any questions if you have them. Fingers crossed we'll get through this okay. There. Yeah, got the tab there if I need it. Right, let's just go for it. Let's throw ourselves in. 2, 3, 4 Rihanna. Flat 2 on Phrygian. Let's go that again, okay? Flat 2 on Phrygian. Again, I'll relax. I thought I'm nearly there. Right, done. So, it's another one down. Let's move on to the next one. Unless you guys have got any questions about that. Let's go back to the tab. Let's scroll down to the next exercise. So that was ascending, sequencing with rhythmic displacement. So you can guess what the next one's going to be. Week 15. Livestream 15 was the same thing in reverse, okay? So we're coming down in groups of 3, but to a count of 4. So this is one example. With live streams 14 and 15, I would definitely recommend you do the triplet lessons first. So do 12 and 13 first, so you're able to sequence in 3s before you then add in the rhythmic displacement, okay? Because the rhythmic displacement definitely does add in a certain element of complication. So you'll get to 14 and 15 and find them so much more enjoyable if you're able to already play the threes. You know, you'll be able to devote a lot more of your concentration and thought process to the fact that you're now rhythmically displacing it and the new count. If you're also having to think about, God, this is sequence. This sequencing business is tough. It makes the whole thing harder. So, again, practicing cells, right? So beat 1, beat 2, join them together. Beat 3, loop it. That's beat 3, join them together. Get the idea, okay? So as before, bite-sized cells, repeat them, loop them, ingrain them into the fingers so that you can do them without thinking too hard about it, and then do the same thing with the next cell, join them together. Don't just read from left to right or top to bottom, okay? You're not wasting your time, but you're not using your time anywhere near as effectively as you could or should be, okay? Let's do it to the backing track, same backing track. I'll scroll down to the second page for this. Yeah, there's also an alternative fingering for Dorian there as well, look. Okay, so I'm going to use the second one, which... Okay, you'll notice again the last beat, look, is just straight down, all the way down, Aeolian, Phrygian, flat 2, same Locrian. Okay, so be ready for that last beat to be slightly different. Let's go to the backing track. Let's go to Logic. Okay, wish me luck. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, for Rihanna. He says. 1, 2, 3, for Rihanna. Love it. Let's move on to the next one. Keep the comments coming in, guys. It was really busy there for a second, and then it's gone quiet again. So, right. We want 16. Now, it's going to be a different type of exercise now. So let's scroll down, see what's in store. So remember, for anyone who's just jumped in, every single one of these lessons I'm showing you has its own live stream lesson. Okay, so we've just done 15, which was there. Look. Oh no, that was 14. 15. There you go. Learn the modes on guitar. Live stream. Okay, that's that one there. I'm wearing my French football shirt because I think it was the World Cup. And we're about to move on to this one, which is triads. Okay, so they're all going to go deep with the theory, how to practice it efficiently. Okay, it will be a couple of hours of your time well spent. Well, it won't even be 2 hours because the last 20, 30 minutes is generally ear training. So you get the idea. Right, back to the tab for you. Let's scroll down. Triads then. Love it. Triads are really important. Lots of my students, they see licks online that use triads. Now, I believe there were no backing tracks. I didn't use backing tracks for this week because it was technically challenging. And I also wanted to do a lesson where I taught the modes in the order that we generally, or traditional music education teaches modes, which is in the order that they present. So, for example, if we're doing it in E, your modes would be E major or E Ionian. But then you start from the second note and play F sharp Dorian, but you're playing through the same scale. Played Lydian there. Then you go from the third note, which would be G sharp Phrygian, okay, but you're playing through the same scale. fourth note would be A Lydian. You get the idea. So I wanted to do a lesson just because we'd done parallel modes for 15 consecutive weeks. I wanted to teach it as, you know, just something referring to the conventional method, and also talk about relating these to parent keys. So that was an interesting element of that lesson, which I won't go into now. But breaking the modes down into triads was cool. So we did Ionian as a starting point. Okay. So with triads, you're taking your scale. And the phrase I use here is stacking thirds. So you miss the second, go up to the third, miss the fourth, just go up to the fifth, gives new root, third, fifth. That is your first triad. Okay. We haven't done anything like this up to this point. This week 16 was very new technically. Then your second triad, you'll see, is marked as an F sharp minor. You're going from the second, skip the third, play the fourth, skip the fifth, play the sixth. There's your second triad, minor. Pick it. Okay, learn it, get it under your fingers. This is a lot more challenging for the right hand as well because you're moving across strings. So you could either play that as a chord at first, or if you wanted to be a bit more, sort of challenge yourself a bit more, make sure that each note is individually played. You could also go up and down each one, look. So this lesson week 16 wasn't about learning a specific picking exercise from start to finish like I've been demonstrating up to this point. It was very much, this is the theory and these are the triads we can create, and then looping them to get these new patterns under the fingers. Let's look at the third one, G sharp minor. So we've gone from the third, skip the fourth, go to the fifth, skip the sixth, go to the seventh. That gives us a G sharp minor, and we looped it. Okay. Do the fourth one as well. So the fourth of E is an A. So we go play the fourth, skip the fifth and play the sixth, skip the sixth and play the octave. So we've got 4, 6, 1. Gives us an A major triad. So every single note in the scale or the mode produces a triad. So if I was to play those one after the other, we get major, minor, major, minor, major. I'm going to carry on. Major, minor, diminished. Okay, you'll see that the frets there, 8, 7, 10. That's a D sharp diminished. Finish on the 1. So we didn't string them together as a continuous exercise as written. It was more like, let's learn the theory. Aaron. And then apply that to each mode. So I'm now going to do E Dorian, which is in the parent key of D major. Okay, now the same thing, but we're going to have a different sequence of arpeggios, a different sequence of triads. So we start with minor, minor, major, G major, A major, B minor, C sharp diminished, D major, finish on the E. Okay, so again, I would be encouraging you for that, your practice that week, to loop those and absorb these new fingerings. That's the second one. Third one. So, and then obviously there's a lot of repetition there. It's very, very good for your technique to spend, you know, it's cool to look at licks that use triads. It's cool to learn riffs that use triads. But they don't become a comfortable part of the fingers. So learning licks where just, this week I literally taught a mixed Lydian lick on one of the shorts. Okay. Very cool, okay? But you've got 2 triads there at the start. It's great, it's really useful, but it's not as useful as sitting there and going again and again and again, absorbing those into your fingers, maybe using a metronome. Okay, I know these are words that a lot of people like, hate using a metronome. And then the next one. Up and down it. A little bit of palm muting. Let's go root, third, fifth, back to the root. That's slightly more technically challenging because there's a string skiplet. Back down. And you may have heard me, if you've seen one of these streams before, talking about inside and outside picking. So if I loop that 3-note pattern with alternate picking, the picking will invert every time. So I'm going to go down, up, down. But if I'm alternate picking, that note then needs to be an up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay? Get comfortable with those two variations, and then stick a metronome on, close your eyes, and just groove that. Both of your hands will really appreciate it. So you've essentially got that same idea split across 7 modes, okay? Building triads from each and every one of those modes. So let's go down to the next page. Okay, and they're presented in the order that traditional music theory teaches modes, i.e. the order that they present in the scale, just for the first time. So that was cool. So if I look very quickly look at Lock, Cree and Le, you're going to get again a range of different shapes. The first one is E augmented, then F major, G minor, A minor, B flat major, C major, and D minor. So, yeah, I say, because I didn't play that one to a backing track, we move on and let's see what we did the week after. So let's scroll down. 17. Now, this was technically challenging because I basically put all of these into an exercise, but back into the order of parallel modes where we changed in only one note each time. This was, up to this point, this was by far the most technically challenging one. I had to practice it quite a lot to be comfortable playing it in front of a camera for 2 hours because I thought there's a potential, you know, obviously I know all these shapes, but there's the potential the camera can do strange things to you. There's potential for me just to make a lot of mistakes. So, so if I was to start, you'll notice underneath the notation and the tab, there are little sideways, upside down brackets. That is to show you where we have fretboard rolls. So I spent a lot of time talking about fretboard rolls on week 17. Okay. So for example, if I use Lydian as our example, there's my first arpeggio, first triplet, but then I'm leading to start my second arpeggio with the same finger at the same fret. So we land the little finger on the pad on the D string and we roll onto the tip on the A string. And then you'll see it going into the third beat. We've got the same thing going on. I'm finishing on fret 6 on the pad, roll onto the tip to do the third one. Roll, roll. Oh, sorry, that was Ionian and we're doing Lydian, aren't we? Roll, 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 roll. No roll. Woo! But then there's one there. Okay. So, this was one where you had to take it really slowly. Okay, but let's just stick it. Let's stick. There's your exercise. Now I can't remember if I did this to the backing track or not. It does feel like, let's just see how fast it is. I'm not sure I'm going to be playing this all the way through to the backing track. Every mode one after the other. Maybe. Shall we give it a go? Can't hurt, can it? What's the worst that could happen? I completely discredit myself. Oh dear. Right. Let me get the tab up in front of the screen here. I'm just going to see if I can do the first couple, just so you can hear it in context. Right. Let's see if I can just get through Lydian first of all. 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. So far so good. Not so good. Let's just run that one as well quickly. That's not so bad. Mixolydian. There's a lot of rolls in Mixolydian. I think almost every triad rolls into the next one. Let's see if I can do those 3. 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Mixolydian. Into Aeolian. Phrygian. Locrian. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty pleased, given that I haven't played that since the actual lesson a few months ago. I'm pretty pleased I was able to sight read my way through that. It's a really good exercise for your technique, and it was by far the most tricky one to date. So by all means give it a go, but if you're new to the modes, then I wouldn't dive in with that one, okay? Just because you don't want to spend weeks and weeks on something that feels really challenging. You know, it makes much more sense to start with weeks 1 and 2, where they're far more comfortable, okay? Absorb the notes and the intervals which change from mode to mode and work your way through a progressively more challenging set of exercises. Let's move on to the next one. Let's see what treat awaited me in the next one. So that, again, that was 2 pages. Look. Ascending 7th chord arpeggios. Now this was another one I think where we didn't play it to the backing track. Why has the screen not updated? That stayed on the... Let's just go back to that. Media. Let's see if that does it. Oh, there we go. Weird. Okay, this worked. OBS does throw me the odd curveball, which I have to deal with. So, okay, so same principle here. We started, I learned them in order, or I taught them in order, should I say, rather than as an exercise, because again, this is extremely challenging. Rather than triads, we added a seventh chord, okay, or a 7th note to create 4 note chords from each note of the major scale, or each note of each mode. So imagine each mode is 7 notes. We're creating 4 note arpeggios. So this is Ionian, the top one. So again, this is a lot of an awful lot technically. So again, we spent a couple of hours talking about the chords within each mode, or the chords generated from in each mode, the arpeggio shapes, and practicing them as loops. So for example, that first one, that's up and down the mode. So we spent time talking, or me talking, and sort of encouraging you to practice these to absorb the patterns. Okay, these are very unpentatonic-like now. You're developing your technique. The second one is F sharp minor 7. Sound lovely. I mean, these would be great in songs, pop songs. Let's go into the third one, G sharp minor. So there's no backing track to this one either. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's funny, obviously, that a lot of people say the best way of learning something is to teach it. And although I've been teaching modes for years, putting these exercises together and teaching them week after week actually did wonders for my left-hand control. Little roll there, look, as I'm talking. Tip, pad. And remember, if you've just joined in or you've just sort of... The tab I'm reading from is a 37-page PDF file, which is free on Patreon, okay? 37 pages for free. That's 22 professionally produced picking exercises. It's obscene value, to be honest. But I just want anybody to be able to access it. So if I move on to the next page, hopefully the page screen will update. Yeah, good. So again, look, Lydian, Mixed Lydian, they've all got... We created 4-note arpeggios from every single one. Let's look at Aeolian, look. We're starting with an E minor 7 now. Chord 2 is F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Really beautiful, complex sound. And so on and so on. Now, we've done nearly 2 hours. There's no point in me going on beyond 2 hours because I'm not sure how many people would actually click on a video that goes beyond 2 hours. So what I think I'm going to do is next week, I will teach live streams 20 to 20, or we'll go over 20 to 22, and then do more ear training. Okay, but I'm not going to go over 2 hours. So if anyone was tuning in for the ear training, apologies, but I'm probably not going to do it now. But do download the PDF from our Patreon, just to show you again, look where it is. There's our Patreon. So it's Modes live stream, 22 exercises in one lesson, tab. And that is a 37-page PDF. There's also a video there, just me talking about it. But yeah, there's a lot there. And then all the backing tracks that I've been playing to tonight, they're on our Bandcamp. There's an album, look, free learning resources. So if you click on music, here are all of our backing tracks, downloadable for like £1 each. Tons of it. Tons of professional backing tracks, original guitar solos. But there's a free ebook. Should I learn to play the guitar? Of course you should. But the thing that you're interested in tonight is this album here, free learning resources, okay? And all of these backing tracks are here. Including the drone that I was playing to earlier. I might finish by playing to the drone. I've set it up as a loop, look, 2 minutes and 40 seconds of an ambient drone. I'll put it on so you can hear it. This is absolutely brilliant for you to improvise with. Let me put that on solo and my guitar. Now, I've said this on 2 or 3 of these sessions. Improvising with a drone is really good for your playing and your ego. Now, what I mean by that is we play to backing tracks, right? I mean, there's tons of them on the Jam Station YouTube channel. But they do give us a false sense of how good we are because they provide rhythm, they provide funky bass lines, they provide riffs, which effectively act as counterpoint to our solos, piano riffs, rhythm guitar, little counter melodies, and they're brilliant to improvise with. I enjoy playing the backing tracks as much as the next person. But improvising to a drone is different because we're removing bass line, we're removing the drums, we're removing any element which can make us think like, wow, this is great, I'm doing really well here. And it's stripping it back to your own sense of musicality, your own sense of melody. So if I stick that drone on, I need to set up a cycle around it. Hang on. No. Here we go. So here's my drone. It's just an E. So any mode that I choose to play now will sound nice. So let's start with Lydian, because that's what we've been starting with all night. So to me, this is such an enjoyable experience because I'm just exploring my sense of melody. It's beautiful. Hopefully you can hear my guitar okay. And I'm learning this mode, intimately. There's the sharp 4. We love that. And this also enables me to work with the tension and release of the mode. So for example, all of the sort of chord tones, the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh to an extent, provide a sense of resolution. And all of the non-chord tones, the second, the fourth, the sharp 4, the sixth, well, you could argue the sixth actually has more resolution than the seventh. But if we listen, let's just sort of like improvise a little bit. There's the second. Can you hear that's not? But we can resolve it on the root, or we can resolve it. So let's come back down our sequencing. Go up to the third. How beautiful. How lovely. Let's do the same thing. Let's land on our sharp 4. Let's do some thirds this time. Sharp 4. Down to our third. Or up to our fifth. Lovely. So you're learning which points are resolution. You're learning which notes to land on if you want to create tension. The sixth is an interesting one because it does actually sound really sweet. And although it's not in our major triad, let's go into Ionian now, right? The sixth is lovely. Seventh is part of our major 7 chord, okay, but it's a sweet sound. It does want to resolve up to the root, doesn't it? Let's look at a minor mode. Let's look at Phrygian, okay? So I strongly advise you, as you start to use these modes for the first time, don't just stick a backing track on and inflate your own ego. Stick one of these on and say, right, let's go from the ground up. Let's build our sense of melody. So Phrygian, that's a flat 2, a flat 3, a flat 6, and a flat 7. Play the flat 9 above it. Stick some of those thirds in that we learnt that. Really cool, really cool. We can ascend them as well, remember? Or even some of the arpeggios that we learnt just at the end there. Line in itself, look. Let's reverse it. Very cool. Triplet sequences we did. And then locker in, we're going to flatten that fifth. Wow, yeah. That would actually sound... Would you want to stop on that note? Maybe not. Right. You get the idea. That's a very enjoyable experience. So I'm going to call it no ear training tonight. Sorry. I will, however, be doing ear training on Monday night. And the live stream is already set up and ready to go. So you can click notify me. Look. You want to be able to see that. Here. So we're currently on this one, look. Master the modes, 1 lesson, 22 exercises. And then Monday night, I'll be doing this. Live ear training for musicians. Improve your oral skills together. We do it as a group. We do it as a community. So it's a lot of fun. So I do interval recognition, both melodic and harmonic intervals. I do triad recognition, 7th chord. And we've started adding in 9th chords as well, just developing your ears. As well as a number of games where I'm playing, or exercises where I'm playing chords and getting you to sing certain intervals over the top. This is the stuff that really adds up, okay? This is the stuff that really makes a difference and is a great accompaniment to what we're doing with the modes, okay? Because the modes is all intervals and ambience, okay? So you're just learning to recognize and learning to control those with your voice, and that enables you to hear them in your head and bring them out on your instrument. It's loads of fun. Right, so I am going to stop any second. If there's anyone who wants to add... Why has Brazil gone blue? Red. I didn't click it. Oh my God. Need to make it blue again. This map, this... Oh, hang on. Wrong one. It was that one. Right. Ah. Am I going out of my mind or what? Get rid of green. Blue. Thank you. Yeah, I would like to add another country. So, Welkanu, where are you writing from? Where did you write from, dude? Are you still online? So, I would love to add another colour to the map tonight. I would love to add another country if anyone's let up for jumping in and tell me where you're watching from. So, right. I will be back next Thursday. I think I'm going to finish off these exercises and do some ear training, and we'll find some other way of bringing the modes in. Okay, I really love teaching it. Hope everybody's well. Patreon is $2 a month at the minute. Don't forget that. Okay, $2 a month. You get access to 179 as it stands different exercises and lessons. Okay, that is a lot. For $2 a month is less than the price of a coffee for a lifetime of professional guitar study. So plus there was monthly hangout and stuff like that. Yeah, I want to meet more of you. Okay, thanks for joining in. Thanks for your comments, especially to Aman, who had a good chat and made a really good suggestion. I will see everybody, Monday for ear training and next Thursday for more modes. Okay, well, let's just go back on there. There we go. Yeah, take it easy. Take care.